Hello, everyone. This is recording number 14 for Plato, a class on the Republic. Today, I want to situate Plato's Republic with regard to a lively debate in political philosophy between proponents of so-called ideal theory and so-called non-ideal theory. Ideal theory asks, what would an ideal city look like? What would just institutions look like? And if you put it like this, then it seems obvious that the Republic is an ancestor of this approach. After all, the Republic lays out a perfectly just city. But critics of ideal theory argue that it is too far removed from the political realities that people find themselves in, and that instead we should do so-called non-ideal theory, where the focus would be on examining the workings of injustice. Now, again, if you put it like that, you might think, well, maybe the Republic is in fact an ancestor of that too. Think about books 8 to 9, where Plato analyzes decline from the best constitution to the worst. Pride of place is given to injustice, and the worst constitution, tyranny. And then if you recall that books 8 to 9 are intended as a refutation of Thrasymachus, and this challenge that Thrasymachus raises in book 1, that maybe it is advantageous for the unjust person to be unjust. Well, then you might think, well, in a sense, we have been talking about injustice all along. And recall also this analysis of perfect injustice in book 2. So looking at all of that, it may seem that the Republic is not concerned with ideal scenarios. Rather, it is in very detailed ways concerned with injustice. So which is it? Is the Republic an ancestor of ideal theory or non-ideal theory? Here's my suggestion. To my mind, it would be obvious from Plato's point of view that we need to do both. We need to do ideal theory and non-ideal theory. But importantly, we don't just need to do both in kind of additive ways, just adding up. Here we do ideal theory, here we do non-ideal theory. Rather, we need the theoretical insights that the combination of both has to offer. Here are two reasons. One is that ideal theory, it may seem, is by itself incomplete. Here's the thought. Ideal theory lays out a perfectly just city or constitution or set of laws. And that, in a sense, presupposes that that is what we want. We lay out this perfectly just city because we want it. But do we want it? Recall again critics like Thrasymachus, who say that injustice is more attractive and desirable than justice. So it may seem that it is a presupposition of ideal theory that justice is what we genuinely want. And according to the Republic, we need a close look at injustice, a detailed and close look, distributed over 2 books, 8 and 9, in order to recognize how unattractive injustice is. And only when we see that it is unattractive to the extent that the unjust person would be miserable, we have the premise that, well, justice is indeed what we want. And then we can, as it were, continue with our ideal theory. Here is the second reason. By doing both ideal and non-ideal theory combined, as it were, we will also look at interim constitutions between best and worst. And Plato's own focus in doing so is on the mechanisms of decline, on what triggers movements to the next worst constitution. So, assuming that we often find ourselves in interim conditions, in constitutions that are neither the best nor the very worst. We might think that that is specifically what should interest us in political philosophy, a study of the mechanisms of decline. So, summing up, I want to suggest that Plato's stance on this dispute between proponents of ideal and non ideal theory is really quite distinctive. Plato not only says that we need both, but he says that their combination promises insights that neither can offer by itself. It promises the insight that injustice is genuinely unattractive, and it also promises insights into the mechanisms of political decline.